All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had
Bueno, ahora te vas a pingo, voy a ir para donde se me canta el
no
culo.
matter how hard Stanley looked,
Pues la verdad,
he
dos veces el
couldn't
mismo
find a
puto
trace
final,
of his co-workers.
como que me pingó. Que no puedo hacer nada. Eso es lo que peor todavía, ¿no?
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but
Bueno,
it didn't make a
maricón.
single difference.
420 tiene que ser,
Nor
vamos, de
did
la
it
mía.
advance the story in any way.
No. ¿Hablo algo o no? No. No, no voy a entrar en el left, maricón.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly
Ahí
well.
me dice que este no es el camino que debería tomar, pero que me voy, que estoy camino hacia el, ¿cómo se llama? La oficina de los, o el cuarto de los empleados, para descansar un poco.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring.
Yeah.
It had really
Descansar
been
un poco.
worth the detour after all, just to spend a
Okay.
few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed
vamos.
room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
No,
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
bueno, vamos a ver qué me dice que vaya a la izquierda. No,
And so
hijo de
he
puta.
detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to
Back
the
on
opposite
track?
door,
What do you mean?
and got back on track.
No me trajiste de nuevo acá, hijo de puta. ¿Cómo me voy acá? No, me trajo de nuevo acá. Bueno, no tengo que ir por esa puerta ya.
Yet there was not a single person
Otra
there
vez.
either. Feeling a wave of
vamos abajo.
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
No,
office.
viste, te engañé. Opa.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all.
Estoy dando vueltas
None
como un
of it made
cabeza.
any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm
Holy shit.
lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Oh my God.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star field, and it too appeared. It was so much
Lo
fun,
mismo, mierda.
and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself, being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air.
Está cerrando los ojos diciendo que está en la cama, pero porque se cree que está loco o está soñando, pero qué aburrido se vuelve esto.
Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
So? Okay, bueno.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Oh, my God. Well.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Bueno, lo que sí, aparecemos en la calle muertos, una mujer pasa y va. ¿Y ahora qué? De nuevo acá. Ok, bueno, acá terminamos con otro porque no más. Voy a seguir después con otro, agarrar otro camino, no sé qué onda, esto está bien loco. Ok, nos vemos en la próxima. Bye a todos. Basta de esto.